Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing number 29 of Forgiveness to Love, My Life Exposed here. And I have to tell you, we're having some technical difficulties because I just did this. And I realized that somehow my phone just shut down. And I was talking to myself. So anyway, bear with me. Um, and so my phone was running out of juice, and so I was putting it on a stand, and so it's kind of tilting, and so it may be like a Disneyland fun ride where we're kind of going back and forth. So anyway, I apologize in advance if there are so many distractions. In any event, thank you for being here. And again, this is part 29, and I am wearing my same uniform here in order to keep for consistency purposes, so that when you, if you want to see another episode in the Forgiveness to Love series, rather than have to read all the different titles and everything, you just look for this outfit and it'll take you there. So in any event, this is page 12 of my forgiveness list, and the subtitles are the $2 million hitman, the IRS scam, FBI and national security, storage fraud, and stuffed envelopes. And so anyway, it's going to be quite an eye-opener. And so anyway, I don't know how many of you have heard the latest, but sibling is, and I want to say that it's my personal story. And so the three kind of villains, so to speak, are my ex, who passed in 2015, from what I'm told, a sibling, and then a son of one of my four children, and the child whom I had full custody of. In any event, he then decided to jump to the other side. And so so he's been instrumental in causing me a lot of pain and hardship, to everyone's detriment, right? Because we don't hurt another without hurting ourselves, truly. Yes, I know I said in any event. I think I'm just so, after having already articulated my thoughts once, I hope I can duplicate it. So therefore, I tell you my perspective. And the reason for that is because we truly are all one, and it's not just rhetoric. And so what happens in my life is to some extent happening in your life. And sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees. When we are in the thick of it, we don't really see all the different perspectives that we might otherwise be able to see if we were watching a movie about somebody else's life. And so that's my goal, is for you to be able to focus on your own life, having heard my story and seeing the similarities involved. Because truly, on planet Earth, there are only so many issues we can have, right? And so they revolve around relationships, and we are in a relationship with virtually everyone we know, whether it's what is it, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. But truly, we are in a relationship with our parents, with our children, with our lovers, with our relatives, with our cousins and aunts and uncles, and employees and employers, and neighbors and adversaries, for sure. And so therefore, there are relationships, there are financial issues, there are health issues, there are career goals, there are, what other things are there on planet Earth? It's really, yeah, health is a big one, right? And finances, and the people in our lives, the things, the people, places, and things. And so, yes, the latest was that I heard that sibling is claiming I'm stalking her. And I just find that to be actually, um, at first it was humorous, and now I find it really sad, uh, because the psychological term for that is projection. It's a defense mechanism whereby someone takes their own unacceptable behaviors and ascribes them to the person that they're accusing. And so here we have a sibling who is accusing me of doing exactly what she's the one that's been guilty of. And I'm not just making this up. I have heard this repeatedly and I have experienced it. And so not only has she been stalking me, but apparently there are clones of my phone that whereby someone can read the emails and go into all of my accounts and go into all my personal banking and read my text messages and see the list of calls and all my contacts and hear the calls. Actually, I can hear people on my phone when I'm on my phone. If they don't like what I say, sometimes the calls are dropped, right? And sometimes emails don't go where they're supposed to go, right? And sometimes we don't receive the emails because I think they go to a holding tank actually, and then whoever is in charge of filtering our information either goes, yes, I think I'll let her read this, or no, she's been a bad girl, she's not going to read it. I mean, it's ludicrous that in this day and age and as adults, there are other people that hack into our electronics and uh, decide, right? They play their own God, decide what it is that we are allowed to access and what it is we aren't, as if we are so irresponsible that we don't have the sense to know what to do with our own communications. So here, and so as I was saying, it's not just a matter of dozens of people being on my phone or having a cloned phone. I hear it's hundreds. It's actually more than hundreds. I hear that it's in the thousands because you see, this has been going on for 10 years and it's really gone on all over the world. And I don't understand it. I really, truly, I do not understand it. I hope that whoever is doing this is getting exactly what they hope to have gotten from it, and is in integrity and telling the truth. But to invade our privacy like that, I mean, who does that? I just can't even imagine. First of all, I'm really not interested in anyone else's life. I have enough going on in mine, as you can tell. But we each have very interesting lives, and we don't have time to think about other people, really, because our goal here is to be introspective and to figure out why we're here if we so choose, and to appreciate all the miracles that we experience on a moment by moment basis here. And so whether it's a butterfly flying by us or it's a kitten, and I'm so enamored with kittens right now because a cat here had two kittens and they're twins. They're identical twins and they're so adorable. And so they play and they roughhouse a little bit with the mom, and she's just such a good mom. And so whether it's the kittens or the birds or the bees or the birds, how they sing and how the crows crow, and it's the hummingbirds and everything in nature. We are so blessed. So I don't understand why anybody would really want to focus on somebody else. And for my sibling to say that I'm stalking her is absolutely ludicrous, because she's the one that knows where I am every single minute of every day from what I've heard. And she claims I've parked in front of her house for 8 hours one day. And first of all, why didn't she just come out, right? Or even call the police? But Secondly, I don't even have a car, so I'd have to borrow someone's car and have possession of it for over 8 hours, which I wouldn't do to anyone. Um, Certainly not to stalk anyone. Again, it's ridiculous, but I think that the story's juicier, without the truth. Um, for years, I had absolutely no contact with her, and she didn't respond to my reaching out to her and asking her about the estate of my parents. And I suppose then her excuse could have been, well, she's homeless. So how do you contact a homeless person? So that might have been what she could have said, right? And so it took me a while to understand why for years my parents had told me to stay far away. And so because there's 4 years difference in between us, and so I realized why we really never had much of a relationship, because we really are polar opposites in terms of our personality and in terms of um, our goals and dreams and wishes and the way we treat people and how we view life, I think. And so what I have experienced in my family, and again, this is a microcosm of what you are experiencing, of what we are all experiencing out in the world, because our story is personal, and yet there are stories that are global that are very similar to what we're going through, whether it's aggressive behavior, whether it's feuding, whether it's, they might be thinking about, pushing the nuclear bomb button, but we're thinking about what to do with members of our family who have, in our opinion, who have violated us in that same way. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not really articulating it all that clearly. And yet, so yes, we have issues that we deal with on this planet. And that's one of the reasons why we're here, is to grow and expand. And so in family situations actually are the perfect venue for which we can do that, because we can't really escape them. And actually what happens is we actually show our worst to our family. And I think that the reason being is that we don't believe that our family can abandon us, right? They're kind of stuck with us. And so if we want to just go crazy, we can do it, and we can really be abusive, and they'll put up with it because they're our family. And so I realize that that's what has happened in my situation with my sibling, who has exhibited some of the most hateful and jealous, and actually has engaged in a full-blown smear campaign to ruin my name and my reputation. And so you couldn't imagine someone, that wasn't related to you doing something like that, right? And so it's just lies and crazy stories, because if it were someone else, they wouldn't be believable. Because how would they even know any of this stuff? And yet, when someone's a family member, you assume that they know the truth and that they are telling you the truth, and yet it couldn't be further from the truth. And the only reason I would want to have much contact with her is only because I just want the things that she's stolen from me returned. And I haven't seen her in over 10 years. Nor do I think it's wise to get back into a relationship where there's a lot of abuse and anger and vengeance. I think it's extremely unhealthy. And so I think we are both being called upon to work through this, and to negotiate, and to try to have compassion for one another. And I think that's what's being called of all humans on the planet right now, because there are so many really dysfunctional and dangerous things going on in our world today, that that compassion is so called for. And so when you realize that people out there are so merciless and are going for the jugular, you just think, oh my gosh, what is the matter with you? Because that's so abnormal. That is just so hateful and so heinous. And so their vibration is so low that it's actually in a crypt in the cellar somewhere. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, raising your vibration and seeing things from a higher perspective. I mean, this is quite dark. Um, and to tell you the truth, I don't even know what my sister looks like anymore. I hear she looks like a different person. I hear she's had a facelift and a boob job, and so I wouldn't know what she looked like. And I also hear she wears my wigs. So does she have dark hair? Does she have white hair like the wig that I heard she was wearing? I really don't know. Um, so I did hear that when I was living in my car and at the Santa Monica Beach, I met I met someone there, and he became kind of a friend. He told me he was working. He worked with the police. He was a private eye. He was a private eye. He was actually a mercenary, and he was a bodyguard, and I needed a bodyguard actually. And so he had told me, though he disappeared for a while, and then he told me, he came back and he said, you know, I met your sister. And I said, you did? And he said, yeah, she was standing there in her bathing suit or whatever on the Santa Monica Beach, and she invited me to her hotel for a drink and dinner and stuff. And so he stayed there for a couple days, in fact, and I don't know. So, and he said, but she had white hair, and she didn't look anything like you at all. And I learned so much about your family. And then I flew to Florida with her and met your children. And we even took a weekend trip, he and her, he and she, not with my children, to Miami. And, you know, he said he saw my children and that they all have condos, I guess, in the same building together. And they all live as one big happy family. And so anyway, the wig that she had was a short white wig, and it's on my website, mariahaiti.com, where I've done some videos, and I have done several series of videos, and where I wear different wigs and different costumes and try to share spiritual messages for people who may not have had an opportunity to really delve into spirituality, or if in fact they just want to kind of dabble in it, they can get a taste of it there. And these are kind of like fun Saturday Night Live type goofy videos where I you know, wear crazy outfits and talk to stuffed animals, and we carry on this conversation. And so I have just these I don't know, I guess he's about 5 feet, and he's this huge giraffe that I named Socrates. And then I have like this 10-foot long caterpillar that's red and pink named Lovey. And I talked to a puppet named Caddy. And I'm telling you, it was just the most fun I've had. And so getting back to that, actually, so Jasmine was the character, and she was the character in the Agenda of Your Soul video series on mariahaiti.com. And so check it out. I think you'll like it. And I'm actually considering posting some of the photos on Instagram now. I haven't really been on Instagram, and I think my handle is Maria _ Haiti. And maybe Facebook. I think so, because the pictures were really, really fun. And I had this fabulous photographer who was just a friend. And and I think he took like 10,000 pictures of me. But everyone was, it was about there was a spiritual message in each one. Anyway, let's get back to why I'm here for this video here. I had an easy space storage unit that I had put all my props and wigs and manuscripts and all my stuff, my jewelry and everything and luggage there when I was getting ready to move from Arizona to Oregon to study with a spiritual teacher. And so someone happened to break in to my unit. And of course they said, well, we don't know who did it. And it was because the camera that was facing the unit, as well as the camera at the front gate, all of a sudden weren't working. And so it just happened. They just happened to like be on the blink, right? It sounded a little fishy to me. I just couldn't even imagine. And so it kind of smelled of Sibling and her flying monkeys. And so if in fact she had the jasmine wig on, then I wonder what else she had. You know, it's kind of sad to think that your own family would actually stoop so low as to break into a storage unit and take everything that you were building a career on, and that it was a passion for you. And it was something that you did well and you enjoyed it. And I had many hopes to continue, because it was just so much fun. But whoever broke in cut off the pretty industrial strength padlock I had, and then kind of ransacked the unit and then stole most of it. And then the rest, there were just some little things that were just kind of garbaged on the ground, on the cement. But it was really heartbreaking, to tell you the truth. And it was heartbreaking to think that my own sibling would do that. And really the last time I've seen her was in 2012 in the lobby of my condo building, where she stood by the lobby doors to the garage, making notes of what my twin and I were carrying down from my unit on the 4th floor. It was number 417, to take to my car, to take to storage before we took another little trip to Brazil. And that was the fateful trip where right when we boarded the plane, the Pinellas County Court records show that Sibling and my son immediately took possession of my home and everything in it, and changed the locks, and that was the end of that. So most of you have heard that story. So I'm not repeating that story to lament about my homelessness. I am repeating that story because the level of depravity is, I think, through the roof. To do that to your own sibling, and it's not as if either of them needed the money. My sibling is married to an orthopedic surgeon. My son is an investment banker. My parents were very blessed to have come from a legacy of wealth, and they were leaving it to their 2 daughters, who then would in turn leave it to their children. And during our time here, I had so many hopes and dreams of building shelters for animals and sheltering people as well, because now I really knew, I knew what it was like to be homeless. And so it's almost like no matter how much money I have, I will always remember what it felt like to walk around hungry, and to know the despair that some people have and how they got there, because those stories would really shock you, just like mine, right? You can't go from having everything to having nothing, but we do. Some of us do, and it's a wonderful lesson, and it has made such an impact in my life. And so when I hear that a family member was so obsessed in taking everything from me. At the same time, I can say, oh, well, it was a wonderful lesson. Thank you very much for doing that. At the same time, we can turn everything around into an opportunity. Um, but the manner by which they did that was horrific. And, um, and it was very criminal, absolutely criminal. And there were so many machinations going on behind the scenes that they were engaging in. It was just, it was sad. I actually feel very sad for somebody who would do some of those horrible things. But also, it was stealing one's career, because I wasted a lot of time not following through on the things that I love to do, because I was in survival mode, in fact. And so, as someone was stealing my creative projects, my writing, I've written thousands of pages, and my videos. And so to actually steal that part, that career aspect that I so wanted to spend the last 10 years doing. In fact, it was a lot of wasted time, and I was actually heartbroken. And I did get the idea in a dream, though, and I also got the message in the dream that there would be a copycat who would try to thieve my idea, but not to worry, because that was something that the divine had me come here to do. We each have a purpose. And so we have, many of us have multiple purposes, and we have many gifts. You have, I'm sure, many gifts that you haven't even thought about unearthing. And so once you can tap into that, your life will certainly change. And so whoever tries to thieve something that is a divine gift, is a sacred gift, they'll be blocked, because it's not for them, you see. So people can't go around stealing things and being successful at it, truly. Eventually, the universe doesn't support thieves, and it simply won't go anywhere. So look deep within and see what are your God-given gifts, and then run with it, because that's yours. And so do all you can and make the most of it. And so, with my sibling, stealing my ID and my identity and everything else I own, including all the books I've written, and just everything. I mean, it's to live without an original thought, and to live in the shadows of someone else, I think is it's incredibly painful, I would think, because we are each individuals, and we are all so different and yet so similar. But in terms of our talents and our strengths and our level of evolution, that's where we can make our mark. And so to actually try to copy someone else it's really not being true to who you are then. And so, and for someone, I know people want to be ahead of the game, and so if somebody has an idea, they want to go after that one too. But for someone to clone my phone and to follow and track every call, every email, every website, every text message I write, I mean, really, it's someone isn't well if they have to do that stuff, right? And this isn't an isolated instance, but it's every minute of every day for years and years. And so, yes, it would make sense that she would want my my things and that were in storage. So I guess that's where they went. Anyway, Easy Space has, has conveniently lost the tapes or erased the tapes, or said that the cameras were not operational, which is interesting. But, when I did arrive in Tampa, I stopped by Siblings Bel Air home to speak with my brother-in-law, since I had heard that, in fact, he lived in their home that's across from Morton Plant Hospital, because he's a physician there, and that she lived in St. Petersburg in a condo there. And so that led me to believe that perhaps they were divorced because they had separate residences. But, and she has a fiduciary duty to discuss my parents' estate. And so before I go into that, I'll just say that, as he was in Clearwater, or in Bel Air, and she was in St. Petersburg, they, oh gosh, I've lost my train of thought now. Well, she and I had been co-executors and co-beneficiaries of the estate. So on the internet, yes, it showed that she and her husband were living in two different places. And so I don't know if that was kind of like an IRS scam, because in Florida, you homestead your residence. And so therefore, that's a benefit. But it's only one homestead per couple, or per household. And so if they had two different households, then they could homestead two different things, and so, and kind of get away with an IRS discount, shall we say. Anyway, did I tell you that this man that was at the Santa Monica beach that I had met, that after he had spent some time with a sibling, and she told him who she was, actually, that she was my sibling, she had offered him $2 million to get rid of me. I thought that was rather interesting. And then he flew to Florida and spent some time with her. So I don't know if he took her up on that offer or not. But I do know that sometimes people will do some really horrible things for money. As far as my parents' condo goes, my sibling had stated that I was a caretaker for my father when he lived in his condo, and that I wasn't living in mine, and that it was sitting empty for 10 years. And that was kind of, I think, an IRS scam as well, because he was living, because if I were his caretaker and living in that condo, then somehow, I guess, the taxes are less, and yet I was never living there. And so I guess I got embroiled in a lot of this trickery and treachery, and it makes me really uncomfortable, because here I was living peacefully and comfortably and doing my writing, and then I decided to go to travel for a bit, and then, everything, and when I came back, everything was gone. And the will was forged, and the trust was forged, and it was just such a mess. And so you think, well, no wonder all of these crazy things are going on in Iraq and Iran and the Ukraine and Kabul and Afghanistan and whatever, because if things are going on like that macroscopically on the planet here within our own families, then, microscopically here within our own families, then of course, macroscopically, all of this aggression is being unleashed into the world at large. And so I can see how that makes a lot of sense. So what else can I tell you? In terms of, when she claimed and perjured herself, basically by saying that I lived in, that I was a caretaker for my dad. I had heard that And my dad was in great physical shape, actually. He used to swim in the Gulf all the time, and he even had a girlfriend in the building. And I heard she actually set him up with a girlfriend to divert his attention from my mom so that he'd put her in a facility and would be too busy to visit her because Sibling had kind of a really strange um, relationship with my mom, who was just an absolute saint. And so my mom was put in a facility until Sibling decided that she was going to put out the order that my mother was to be starved. And so for 17 days, my mother was starved to death at the behest of her own daughter. And so, and then conveniently took control of the estate and all its goodies. And so, as for my dad, he's the one that would brag that he didn't take any meds, not even aspirin, and he planned on living to 100, like some of his relatives living on the Greek islands. And the poor guy, I'm sure he never imagined what his own daughter had in store for him. Yet when I arrived in Florida, I came here in order to deal with the trust and to see what, in fact, my sibling had done with all my money. And so I rang her doorbell, actually. I did go there one day. I rang the doorbell of the Bel Air home, and I assumed that only my brother-in-law lived there. And it was kind of weird because when Alan opened the door, let's see, how can I show you from this camera? When he opened the door, I guess he went like this, he opened the door, but he did it like really, really slowly. He opened the door, and then he looked at me, and then he closed the door. And it was like the creepiest thing I had ever seen. And he didn't make a sound. And I thought, well, she's on my phone 24/7. So of course, she obviously let him know. Maybe she was in a different room in the house, or maybe she was just behind the door, watching what was going on. Or maybe she had cameras on there filming me. Who knows? But certainly he didn't even seem surprised. And so I can imagine that he was expecting me. And so whether she has a clone of my phone and called him and told him, or he has his own clone of my phone, I don't know. I just know that, I hadn't seen him in 10 years. And he might have had some reaction because we had all even gone to school together. He and I had gone to Northwestern, and around the same time, actually, because we're the same age. I think maybe he's a year older, but we had spent many evenings together, holidays together, and we were all students, and we used to go for Mexican food, and we'd go party, and here all of a sudden, and he had been in my home in Florida, my condo, and so all of a sudden, if he saw all of my things being, now in his home or in her condo or wherever they went, all I know is they're just not mine anymore, or they're put somewhere else. Someone else said that she decorates her St. Petersburg condo with my things, which I think is kind of creepy too, but really everyone does what they choose to do, right? What works for them. And so if they want to live in that energy of someone else's home and in the energy of theft and lies and manipulation, then that's theirs to deal with. Certainly her husband, I would think, would make enough money that she wouldn't need to be stealing my things. But and she didn't answer my messages, and she does have a duty to discuss the estate and the family holdings. And so my dad did make 2 exceptions to that rule, though, of the 50-50 split. And one was that she wanted the crystal and the silver of my parents, which my dad asked me if that was okay. And I said, absolutely, she can have that. And I wanted my things that I had assigned to him to protect them from my ex, who who was going to come after my dad, who's coming after me and my dad. And so my dad said, well, assign them to me, and then in the trust, I will then return them to you. And so that was the agreement. And so every day, you know, that all of this ridiculous crap goes on, there's kind of an unmitigated assault on me by my own family. And so every day, though, I just remind myself that I'm good with my soul. And I'm witnessing the darkness. I'm witnessing the darkness of the planet. I'm witnessing the darkness of my community. I'm witnessing the darkness of my family. And I think we all are. And things that I never imagined were possible, I've actually lived through. And so apparently people are only too willing to sacrifice others. And personally, my own family has been only too willing to sacrifice me for cash and things. And so human beings have now reduced other human beings to being no more valuable than cash or possessions or things. And so I find that absolutely tragic, actually. And yet our goal here on this planet is to embody self-love. And so when we realize that many of the things that we've gone through have been opportunities for us to be strong and to be empowered and to see things from a higher perspective, because why are we here really? And who are we? And so the other thing is that I heard that sibling was telling the FBI that I was a national security threat. And so you think, my gosh, I mean, there really is no depth too low that some people will stoop, right, in order to smear our names, to have that smear, and to engage in a smear campaign, and to disparage us and defame us, and to ruin our reputation. And so it's all going a bit far. But I'm the one that actually had contacted the FBI and the IRS and bunches of police forces and sheriff's departments and law enforcement and anyone else I could think of to disclose the dozens of crimes of greed and of perjury and forgery and even murder that have gone on in my family. The murder of both of my parents, and I do believe my favorite uncle and my nana, who was my grandfather's sister, who was like a grandmother to me. So, and there have been there have been life insurance scams that I have heard that people have bought with sibling, and through her, I guess, she kind of pretends she's me and forges my signature and has stolen my identity, and she does these life insurance scams. And I heard she also stole my identity and forged a marriage document with God knows who. But actually, I think it could have been someone that I actually had been staying with once I got to Florida, and that he and she would split the insurance money. Oh my God, did you even hear that? I mean, isn't that just like too crazy? I can't even believe it, really. But it's too shocking. But yeah, evil is real. And we don't really see the evil until we can really, really go deep and look at our shadow self, and to see, because there's good in everything, and there's also evil in everything. And so there's the light and the dark. It's the dichotomy. And in order to see one, you have to see the other. And so the last place I stayed was, I stayed with a man who I had found out during that time that he was secretly hooking up with with sibling. And so I just had to shake my head because I realized how some people will do anything for money and for vengeance. Um, and so one night after he went to bed in his room, I heard him get up. And so from my room, I I understood that he unlocked the outside door and turned off the porch light. And so I approached him and I said, "Why did you unlock the door and turn off the light?" And he actually said, "Because people are coming to kidnap you." And so I thought, oh my gosh, um, you couldn't even imagine the horror that I felt um, at siblings' plan to torture me. And it was so reminiscent of when I was living in a car and I would be surrounded by all of these like military-like people that were in these big trucks, and they were following me and doing maneuvers and stuff. And here I was, I mean, just a sitting duck that at any moment they could have just, pulled on my door knob and my door handle, and they could have done whatever. And so it was torture. And so it's hard for me to even imagine that this kind of stuff happens in the United States in plain sight. Although if I try to stay away from the news, but for those of you who read newspapers and watch the nightly news, I'm sure you're not shocked by that. And so I guess what has been so disappointing in all of this is that regarding an estate, my parents' estate was worth so much. And so it seems like some part of the government, right? And certainly the IRS would be on the ball of anyone trying to defraud them. And so even if the estate was worth $100,000, right, much less 100 times that, one would think that in fact no crime will go unpunished. And also in the eyes of the divine, I think such arrogance to be doing that and defrauding so many kind of begs for justice, I would think. And so when we see that there's darkness that is surrounding us, the contrast is undeniable, truly. And so when ex and sibling and son engaged in such sadistic behaviors, we become even more committed to being better versions of ourselves, because even the thought of hurting another human being is far too upsetting. And so our adversaries and our enemies are actually, they propel us to reach higher, and such that we understand that definitely we reap what we sow, and that's not just rhetoric. That, in fact, is energetic truth. And so whether or not it's we reap what we sow, and that's the Jesus message, right? And then there's karma, which is the law of cause and effect. And then we have Newtonian physics, which is the third law, which is anything that you send out comes back with the same energy, comes back to you. So it's kind of like the karmic boomerang. And so, and also everything that we do is written in the record of our souls. And so, although at times, we may feel powerless, and when others take advantage of us, and certainly we've all been there, right? And lie about us and steal from us and sabotage us, and even try to ruin us and our children and our relationships and our families and our significant others and our careers, right? And our bank accounts and our reputation, with everyone we know, right? And then even our health, whereby certainly for me, I've told you in past videos about the poisoning that has been going on really for the last 40 years, starting with the ex who shortly after we got married, he actually admitted to his divorce attorneys that he had been slowly poisoning me because he wanted me out of the way. And I was standing in the way of his getting to my family of origin. And so, and then after the divorce, he was doing that as well. People were coming into my home, my Clearwater Beach condo, and they were coming into my homes in Chicago's North Shore as well. And then and then after he passed, I guess sibling and son kind of took over. And I know that there are a lot of creepos that follow me and come into my residences and tamper my food and drink, and I find it absolutely disgusting, really. But remember, the energy that created us, created every soul and created our soul and knows exactly, what's in our heart and what we are to experience here. And so there are no mistakes, and there is nothing that will not kind of reap the energy by which one sends out that energy. And so it is that karmic boomerang. So whatever you send out does come back to you. It's just, it's a universal law. It can't not be that way. And so, and I was actually even shocked that the police, because I have called the police so many different times and so many different police, but I was shocked that historically, even they didn't seem to be taking my concerns seriously. Even when my father was I felt he was being murdered, and my mother was certainly being starved to death. People didn't take that seriously, and when people were breaking into my homes, and they said, oh no, we don't do the fingerprints anymore, and the cameras, maybe they're working, but then all of a sudden, there are ways to deactivate them, and there are ways to deactivate any type of alarm system you have. I mean, they're basically worthless from what I was told, because there's always a way to block the signal from your home to their call center or whatever it is. And so if whatever we do to protect ourselves can always be undone, there's always a way to kind of worm their way through that protection or whatever it is. And so, and then when we express our concerns, we're just painted as delusional or something like that. And so how credible, and for me, how credible can someone be when they don't even have a home? Of course, she doesn't say that, oh yeah, I stole her home and put her out on the street. But in any event, that's the bottom line is I have no home, right? And no funds, everything's gone. And so no matter how much I can try to overcome that, there have been blockages. So for some reason, I wasn't able to overcome them up to now. And so yes, people are cruel, and we know that. And so I guess the takeaway is that we are here to be empowered, and we are here to do our very best, and we are here to stand strong, and we are here not to let others take advantage of us, and we are here to share our story, and we are here to help others share their story as well. And so know that when other people are calling you, as they've called me, a druggie, a drunk, a prostitute, I don't even know what other wonderful things, delusional, mentally ill, I don't even know all the different things. It's just whatever names they want to call me. Just know that that's a lot of projection, because we know who we are. And some people, of course, have overcome addictions, but that's not who they are now. And so we just need to see the red flags. And for decades, I've seen them. And we need to set boundaries. And I was never really good at setting boundaries because I just wanted to love everybody. And I wanted to help everybody, and especially people in my family, and of course, my own children, 24/7. And so, anyway, it's kind of time that we take care of ourselves because we are number one. And so when we take care of ourselves, then we are in a position to help others. But if we are running with an empty tank of gas, we don't have the strength to help anyone else. And I think that many of us have been through that, especially since 2012. And 2012 was a year that was very impactful for many people. And so what happened is that a lot of people then went through some really tough lessons and some really dark nights of the soul. And for many of us, it's taken us till now in order to be able to have a platform and share our story and understand what happened and why it happened, and that we are so much stronger for it. And so absolutely it was wrong, it was hideous, it was heinous, it was disgusting, it was criminal, it was pathological, it was just extremely painful, and put many of us in states of despair for however long, and yet we overcome. We are here to embody all the power that each and every one of us has been given by virtue of our being on this planet at this particular time in the evolution of both humanity and the planet itself. And so we are here to nurture our soul, and there's nothing more important than nurturing our soul, because then we embody, then we behold the divinity that actually is us, right? And that the God essence that we are. And so we are so much more than we can possibly imagine. And so when people have done the most horrible things to us, I mean, just pity them. Could you even imagine being in their shoes for 10 seconds and to thieve, to sell their soul? Actually, this is it, to sell their soul for what? Even if it's for $1 million, to sell your soul? Would you really? Is it that cheap? Or to sell your soul for a yacht or cash, as Sibling apparently passes out envelopes of cash to the flying monkeys that she hires to try to sabotage me and hurt me and stalk me and come in here and I guess, I don't know if she sprinkles or pours or whatever, some poison on food. I mean, it's just gross, and it will come back on whoever does that, because that is disgusting. And so yeah, to sell our soul for what? A yacht, or a trip around the world, or I guess people don't wear fur coats anymore, thank goodness. But for what? For a home, for a vacation home, for a Maserati, for, I don't know. What would you sell your soul for? Hopefully the answer is absolutely nothing. There is not anything. There is not there's not enough money on the planet itself to sell your soul and go against your own convictions. And so it's actually, when we think of selling our soul, it's just, or going against our soul, it's really just nonsense, and it borders on absurdity, right? And so it doesn't even deserve our energy, because whether it's envelope stuffed with cash, or direct bank deposits, or into bank accounts, you know, um, people then become nothing but a troop of monkeys that are then so easily blackmailed because they've committed the crimes too. And so there's just no way out. You know, you're just, remember that movie No Way Out? That's what I think of. There's no way out because people are so easily blackmailed. And so for the monkeys that harass us, you know, they're just really, they've got them by the throat. They can't even get out. And yet they're still monkeys, right? And so what's the self-respect in knowing that this is what you do as you go around hurting people that you don't even know, and people who may very well be, you know, innocent, totally innocent, and you're working for the dark. And so that's very low vibrational behavior. And you know, at the same time, you know, we can take a look at ourselves and see about the choices that we're making, right? And where we could have done better. And so that's what every day can be on this planet, is to seek and to search for the meaning of life and who we are as divine beings and how we want to present ourselves to the world. Because again, you know, all the eyes are on us. And so we have an opportunity to make the most of who we are and all the gifts that we've been given. And so we're on the right track, and we can stop wasting time and embody the love that we are. And so certainly for me, I want a life of, you know, smiles, laughter, and giggles. And so how we go about that is really up to us. And it's a matter of letting go of negativity. It's a matter of letting go of people, places, and things that don't serve us, that don't elevate us, that don't raise our vibration. And we do that when we are strong within ourselves, within who we really are. Remember, the goal is to become more of who you really are. And when you feel the truth of your very being, you know, then you're living as your authentic self, and you're being the real you. And so the real you isn't a people pleaser. The real you isn't afraid. The real you is strong, is empowered, and is grateful. And so as you spend every day appreciating and being grateful for all the gifts, all the miracles that you experience at every moment, whether it's, you know, as we said, the butterflies and the kittens and the dogs. And certainly what I had planned to do with my money was to shelter animals, shelter dogs, and also shelter people. And this is what I would do once I had experienced the homeless situation. Now, prior thereto, you know, maybe 15 years ago, before I lost my home, before I became embroiled in, like, it seemed like every lawsuit under the globe, because my ex just kept saying, I'm gonna get your father's money, and I'm just gonna keep suing you and suing him until you all give up. And so where was I going with that? Anyway, so yes, 15 years ago, I might not have thought about sheltering dogs and sheltering people, because I might have sheltered dogs, but I wouldn't have thought of sheltering people. And yet I got to know people who, for one reason or another, were living without homes. And to hear their stories, it's so amazing, because some of these people were very successful. Some of these people were physicians. Some of these people were hairdressers. Some of these people, you know, were moms. Some of these people were wives. Some of these people were teachers. And for whatever reason, whether it was an accident or a health issue, or they lost their job, or they got a divorce and then had nowhere to go. And these people are in despair, and we need to help them. That's the bottom line. That is just why we're here. We're really here to first help ourselves and then to help others, because we are truly all one. And so and that's why this video series, I've done now 29 parts to it. And I know you might think, oh, well, she talked about that corruption and that corruption and that corruption before. And I keep adding to it, because sometimes it's so shocking even for me. And so anyway, the title of this series, is Forgiveness to Love. And so when you forgive yourself, then you can love yourself. And so when you forgive and love yourself, then you can forgive and love others. And anyway, so join me at part 30, if you would, and where we continue on a most magical journey. And so if you'd be so kind as to please like, share, and subscribe, that would really help. And you can follow me on Instagram, and I will, within the next couple of days, I'm going to start posting things there. And so please know that I wish you all the success in the world, and I know that you can do it. And I thank you for being here. And I think you're just all amazing, and I am so grateful for your presence, and I love you. Good night.